people find it a little hard to get out of their like comfort zone and what they're used to, the traditional, serving style. But when we set out to do this restaurant, we were very clear on what we wanted to do was that we wanted to sort of give Nigerian food a modern take.
Hello and welcome to the Experience Pod. My name is Dr. Damola Oladosu. The Experience Pod is a 30-minute one-on-one interviewer-led podcast that discusses the adoption and utilization of relevant emerging technologies and trends for impact-oriented professionals, researchers, developers, and students who demand realistic and thought-provoking perspectives on the opportunities and challenges presented by these phenomena in a unique environment. Restaurants, whether quick service or formal dining, form a major part of any country's business landscape. According to Smedan, accommodation and food services make up 6% of Nigeria's 41 million micro, small, and medium enterprises. With the food and hospitality sectors being one of the major casualties of the pandemic, restaurants are being forced to innovate in new ways to continue to provide value for customers. On today's episode, we're super excited to be joined by two founders whose restaurants have made names for their creativity and customer experience. We welcome Reni Folawiyo, founder of Alara, which houses the restaurant Knock, and Chef Tolu Erogbobo, founder and executive chef at Chef Eros Co, which includes the restaurant Eros, to share their thoughts on innovation in Nigeria's restaurant industry. Welcome, Reni and Tolu, and thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
Yay, thank you. So we'll just get right into it. For those who might not have heard of your work, could you please briefly introduce yourself and give a brief description of your restaurants? I'll start with you, Reni.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here, as I said before. Knock by Alara is a contemporary African restaurant, an extension of the Alara concept, which celebrates and elevates all aspects of African lifestyle. We seek to redefine African luxury for ourselves as well as the rest of the world. We serve African classics and we present it in a contemporary setting. And we do as much as we can to preserve the heart and soul and essence of our traditional food.
Sounds fancy. Tolu, do you want to tell us about your restaurant?
Yeah, my name is Tolu Eros. I'm the founder and the executive chef at Eros Co, which houses Eros. Eros is an authentic Nigerian restaurant with a modern twist. Our ethos is to give people an unforgettable culinary experience using Nigerian flavors with international influences, which are inspired by travel, local ingredients, and just African heritage.
Great. So like you both just described, both of your restaurants are really looking to rework and reimagine Nigerian and African cuisine. What has your experience been like in striking the balance between authenticity and innovation for your diners? Reni, you and I were talking a bit about this earlier, so maybe I'll let you get started on that as well.
I mean, yes, like I said before, we do want to introduce innovation into our traditional food to find a way to connect newness and innovation to our traditional food. And so that we can be sort of at the forefront on the contemporary discussion of food today. Mm-hmm. And this is what we want to do. And we do try, we sort of research new flavors, we find ways to present traditional dishes with using new flavors, But as I said to you before, we're very nostalgic people. We find that our customers are very nostalgic. They want things a certain way, and when it's too different, it puts them off. Mm-mm. So we find that there's some dishes, like we were talking about Ebola, which people want in a certain way, and they will only have in a certain way, and other dishes that we can be innovative with. But what we find is that the really local food, people want to eat it in a local way.
In the local way.
But then what we've been able to do is to bring influences from different parts of Africa. And in that way, we can innovate. So it's easier to innovate with foods that people don't know so much and they're not accustomed to as well, than to do so with food that they like to see in the traditional form. Finding a way to innovate around jollof rice hasn't always been successful. So we can do jollof balls, we can do it in a certain way, but people really want to sit down and have a bowl of jollof rice.
They just want to eat their jollof rice, right?
They just want to eat. So you'll find that we can be nostalgic and that we can be innovative. So we've had to find a way to balance both growth and tradition.
Tolu, what has your experience been like with that? I think you've managed to find a way to try to innovate around mala, if I'm correct. So maybe touch a bit on how you've done that and what your experience has been like.
So, I mean, Reni is very correct in the sense that we're very nostalgic people, and restaurant, we were very clear on what we wanted to do was that we wanted to sort of give Nigerian food a modern take. The truth of the matter is a lot of us who dine out at these restaurants travel around the world, and we see how the French cuisine, but more like the Italian cuisine, the Spanish cuisine has evolved over the years. And so what we try to do is make sure that the message is clear. You know, in order to do that, you know, we have to interact with the guests and let them know what to expect. But at the same time, don't go too far away from it. So what we've done is been able to sort of strike a balance between giving people a sort of authentic taste with a modern view, modern approach without being too modern. But then we want to go extreme, so we want to go very modern, and so we offer you a chef tasting as well as an a la carte. So on the a la carte menu, you would find Nigerian dishes that, yes, they have taken a modern approach towards the presentation mostly, but the taste has been kept exactly the same. We do have the one-odd people who would come in and say, "Oh my God, you cut my amala into small pieces. Am I a child?" But for the most part, people understand what we're trying to do and are able to sort of experience that and proud to bring other people to experience that. And then with the tasting menu, because it's a tasting menu and people are educated, I think the key thing with sort of closing up that gap between innovation and authenticity is communication, right? I feel like the people who are dining, if they have a clear understanding on what you're trying to achieve, you know, with your taste and presentation, they're a little more receptive. So whenever we hear people say, "Oh my God, you cut my amala into small pieces," it's usually somebody who didn't know the amala was going to come in small pieces, or didn't know this was an authentic Nigerian restaurant with a modern twist. So initially it was a little tough, but I would say over the last 2 years, it's gradually become a lot easier to win people onto that side. And like I said, we strike a balance by giving you an a la carte that is a little more traditional than a tasting menu that is completely modernist.
So it sounds like you've really had to identify your customer segment and really drill down on your customer niche, because obviously this experience can't really be for everyone. So how has that experience been like for you, really just narrowing down on who I want to serve?
Okay, so for me, I think the first thing was, we grew into this organically, right? So we started off as a catering firm, and we're doing a lot of private dining. And so we just transitioned a lot of our customers who were always asking us to come to the house to cook, to come into the restaurant. And from then on, word of mouth was our key marketing source. We tried to stay away from doing anything on TV, radio, anything that would just sort of get people in that do not understand the brand or hadn't had any pre-experience, right? But then at the same time, when we put out some content about tasting menus, you find the people who have never experienced the brand before come in for a tasting menu, and we just try our best to communicate what exactly to expect and just constantly, just communicate, right? I think that's been the one thing that we've learned from this experience, is to constantly find ways to make our message clear, so people don't come in expecting to see, the same thing you'll find in a Boca.
Okay, that's so interesting. So to talk a bit more about what you've both been up to lately, it will be really impossible to ignore the pandemic and its impact on the restaurant and hospitality industries, especially during the lockdown periods. Reni, we saw Knock quickly pivot to a home delivery model. What was your experience of trying to maintain your bottom line and also innovate your service delivery during the lockdown?
Yeah, for me, I saw it quickly. It was important that during lockdown, we keep our customers happy, we keep our brand in view, and we keep the experience similar to what it was when we were not under lockdown. So we changed very quickly, had a change in design of our assets, and found a way to connect to our customers digitally, mostly via mobile app, you understand. And for us, because we changed so quickly, we've always had takeout, but not dedicated takeout like that. I mean, you could have takeout from Knock. For us to try and sort of, I'm not a big fan usually of takeout of elegant food or food that you want to be presented in a certain way. So this was out of our comfort zone, but it was important for us to be agile at this time and to keep our customers happy. So we chose the dishes that would be sort of available for takeout. We wanted complete control of the process. My vision is very much experiential. It's actually quite immersive. It's all about lifestyle, it's all about experiences, and it's all about luxury. So we wanted to keep the same feel that you have from going to knock, just offline. So we stayed connected with our customers and kept that going. So basically, that part of it was easy. The process was easier, as long as we wanted control and we could have control. Managing the food was a little bit more challenging, but we could do that in choosing the kind of food that was available for takeout. Yeah, so for me, I didn't see any other way. First of all, keep my customer happy and satisfied, and keep ourselves in view to keep us going and to keep our staff in sort of being paid. And we had to change very quickly. We believe that we are the kind of brand that's quite agile. We're very much customer oriented. And so for us, it was a switch that was as necessary as it was timely.
That's really interesting. Tolu, disruption provides a time for smaller players to seize previously unseen opportunities. When you think about the restaurant industry more widely, where do you see new opportunities being created in the pandemic and then post-COVID?
Okay, so this for me is a major point in the sense that COVID changed the landscape of my business dramatically. We never did any takeout before COVID. We were strictly a dine-in restaurant. And when COVID happened, we were very ahead of the curve and converted immediately into takeout. To do that, we had sort of like a week or two of planning because we had been seeing what was happening in the western part of the world where COVID was related. And we were sort of, how would I put it? We just accepted the fact that it was going to get here at some point. And so we started monitoring what other restaurants were doing. Like Reni had said, especially with experiential dining, it's very difficult for you to put everything that you would do in a restaurant, in a pack, have it delivered. There's some things like my Damunama rolls, for example, we hit in the restaurant that couldn't be put in a pack because by the time it gets to you, it would lose its crunch, right? And seafood tempura had to get dropped off as well, so certain things like that. But once we had sort of honed down on the menu that could travel, we immediately went out on social media and announced the fact that we had this service available. And we also found an opportunity within to help our community. So what we had done also was to create a relief fund to be able to support the amount of people that we were going to sort of put on furlough during the lockdown, and to also support our local communities and just do a little bit for the frontline workers. That was quite key for us. But what that had done was had given us a certain level of corporate social responsibility that the consumer responded to positively by even sharing the content with other people, and that for us was some sort of learning in the sense that there is good in doing good. And so it has become a part of our business model to always constantly give back. So that's one part. Right. The second part was the fact that we had started a delivery business that we didn't have before. And so we had gone online with a website, we had created a great platform on WhatsApp for ordering and keeping the process, quite smooth, and so today, post-COVID, well, I mean, it's still COVID, but post-lockdown, right, we are still delivering the kind of numbers we're delivering during lockdown, and then the restaurant has come back. And so I would say that, our sales are higher than they were before COVID, right? And thirdly, should I say fourthly now, is a new brand, Fresh Prep, that came out of COVID as well. We noticed that a lot of people were at home. I was one of those people who was at home, and I'm used to working in the kitchen with 10, 12 chefs who have done all the prep work, right? And now I had to be at home with no help, and I had to cut all the onions myself. And I'm just like, ain't nobody got time for this. Somebody needs do this. So what I ended up doing was I would call my restaurant, or I'll ask my chefs in my restaurant to prep a bunch of things for me, right? Almost like I was ordering. So they would season my chicken, they would do all the like things that I need to be done. They would grate my ginger, like my garlic, my onions. All of that was already done and sent to me, and we thought we could. Why can't we make this available to the consumer,
everyone, right.
To everyone? And so we launched a brand called Fresh Prep that pretty much, bridges the gap between shopping and cooking, in the sense that we're able to marinate your proteins, so your proteins come marinated. Basic marination, so it allows for application of extra flavors, which we also give you those extra flavors, like the barbecue sauce, the pepper sauce, the Alara sauce, the stew base, that you can use to coat the chicken. So the chicken is already marinated with basic aromatics that you can throw into the oven. And we're talking chicken, lamb, pork, all of that, right? Pre-cut vegetables, ready to do as fried rice. All of us like fried rice, but to sit down and cut that.
But we don't like cutting those vegetables.
Right? So, exactly. So the vegetables are pre-cut, even for grilling, you have the vegetables cut. And then there's also spices and oils. And also very importantly is the recipe kit, which gives you all the ingredients you need, right, to make a recipe. I'm sure you've seen this around from different parts of the world. This has become a trend right now, right? Everyone is buying recipes in a box and having it like ready to go. Right. Then there's also the fact that we released the dinner in a box, because I got to a point where I was getting bored of the casual dining I was getting in my takeout packs, and I wanted to be able to still do my tasting menu, but following COVID standards, right? So we found a way to plate our tasting menu in a nice hard quality box that almost looks like a Hermes shoebox, right? It's a nice spread out 7 courses. You get the menu in there. There is even a barcode that you scan, and you'd see a presentation by me telling you what each course is, right? So you get a very similar experience to dining in the restaurant, and that has also helped us to. By the time the combination of all of that has definitely changed the landscape of my business.
Oh, I feel like you mentioned so many interesting things. I like the idea of corporate social responsibility being a way to build your brand, to gain new customers. I personally love Fresh Prep by Eros. I use it all the time because I'm lazy and I don't like to cook. So I think and then of course, like innovating around the delivery service as well. I think you've touched on really, really interesting points that I think our listeners will find useful. So you've both kind of talked about how, the importance of the experience is for you in your restaurants and for your customers. So you're not just focused on the food and the drink, you're really trying to take the time to provide a unique and memorable experience for your customers. Would you say that this idea of a differentiated customer experience is key to your business models? And how have you been able to successfully implement this business model in a market like Nigeria that's so price sensitive? Do you think that having this additional experiential value allows you to charge a higher premium to your customers? Reni, I'll allow you start here.
I mean, the whole idea of Alara is to expose and elevate Africanness to, unlike previously, where people didn't value what was African, especially in the modern world. They didn't have a contemporary approach to all things African. So it was always important that we had an immersive experience, whereby when you came in, you understood by being there that we were creating something that perhaps you hadn't experienced before, but which you should experience in order to be able to understand the value of what our Africanness can bring to the table. So that's what we're all about. That's why we have a very immersive experience, because we are deliberately trying to elevate the idea of being an African in a contemporary world. However, it's like you say, it's a very price sensitive market. The fact is that a lot of times the food is familiar to the customer. And therefore they have an idea of how much it should cost. Right. Because it's familiar. And so whatever you're doing to innovate, whatever way you're trying to add to the conversation, you have people saying, is it not just beans? I mean, you know what I mean? So it's like, is it not just beans? And so in that sense, much as we want to make it more elegant, we want to make it more experiential, we have to be conscious of that. And so what we've done is that, yes, and everybody that comes to Alara imagines that, oh my God, is going to be like unapproachable. It's going to be super expensive. I mean, look at the place, you know, that kind of thing. So for us, I don't think that we're able to charge a premium as such. But what we've done is that we have two approaches in our restaurant. We have the proper restaurant, and then we have the garden grill. Okay. That is literally a very accessible price point with very simple foods that people find a little more accessible. For us, because we're luxury, you also know that you attract a different kind of customer naturally. So, which is kind of like more mature, more established, and more used to luxury. But we're also a creative brand, and we want to encourage youth, and we want to encourage sort of creativity and empowerment of the youth. So for us, it was important that there was an accessible aspect of our vision that they could come and buy into, and then slowly find their way into the other parts of our business. So for us, Knock and its garden had to be that. So I think the garden more so than Knock, but then the garden being the first step into the Alara vision. And then the Knock restaurant, and then the store. So for us, it was always going to be a process like that, because we wanted to be inclusive. And our vision is kind of is something that resonates more with the younger people who have more pride in their Africanness than my generation. And so we had to find a way to include them. And for us, the Knock and its garden, as well as events and a lot of things that we do to make our vision a little bit more inclusive.
That's so, I actually never thought about it that way, like with the garden being sort of the entry point into the brand as a whole, and then like sort of working your way up into the vision. I think that's so brilliant. I don't think I've ever thought about it that way. That's so brilliant. Tolu, do you have a different approach to this? Are you able to charge premium, or do you find that your experience is the same as Reni's?
Okay, so how do I answer this? We definitely have a certain level of differentiation going on. When you come to Eros and you scan the menu, you would see a variety of menu options to give you certain level of experiences. Some more than others, you have to make a proper pre-reservation, right? So with tapas, the tapas menu allows you to have a taste of so many different things in one sitting at a really low price. You know, price entry points of as low as 2K, right? Allowing you to have like a nice taster, right? Into the a la carte, which is a little more robust, but what we've done is balanced it out with quantity. So we give you what we call value for your money. So in most cases, people are taking a little bit of that away. We found a way to still keep, and that's one thing that I feel like we struggled with at the beginning, was how do we give you quantity, you know, without losing the essence of the fact that it's supposed to be a modern take to it, right? What we found was during our journey is that we started to go more rustic, more local with our plating. We found that the large clay plates, for example, allowed us to put more volume in terms of kg of rice in a bowl than a flat white plate would have allowed us to do, right? And so that's what we did with the a la carte. So if you're buying an a la carte meal for 6K, for example, you're getting a very decent sized portion. But
so the customer doesn't feel bad about paying the 6K.
Exactly. Yeah, but then the space already commands a certain level of respect that once you come in, you already know that you're not coming to a booker, so you're not going to be spending like you're not going to be spending 1K on 1,000 on a meal, right? And then we go up an extra level and give you a fine dining tasting experience where you're charged a little more for smaller portions, but you're getting a fuller experience, you know, where you get to meet the chef. You know, the chef takes you on a culinary expedition, telling you the journey, tells you basically how the meal was curated, what to expect in terms of flavor, you know, and all of that. So I guess that way we're able to sort of separate the market. And for us, you know, there's also the chef's corner that is a little more private than the restaurant, which is a little more private than the garden, you know, which is a little more open. Yeah.
That's really cool. I like the idea of even within one restaurant, sort of creating different experiences and different price points for different customer segments. I think that's really cool. So to a large extent, aggregator platforms like Uber Eats, Postmates in the US, Deliveroo in Europe, or Jumia Food in Nigeria have kind of changed the restaurant industry. With Knock, Reni, I know you mentioned earlier that having control of service delivery from food preparation to delivery is super important to you. Do you think that restaurants actually lose out from the growth of these aggregator platforms in terms of them losing that customer experience bit? What do you think about that?
I mean, I'm not sure, but I know what's good for us. I think what I think is that it has become expensive on these platforms. You find that a lot of your profits are taken away by your delivery service. And I think that you're supposed to get from them, of course, is a bigger platform, sort of access to more customers, the sort of functioning of a tech service. These are things that, yes, you will get, but I think that especially in the COVID era, COVID times, restaurants cannot afford to give up the percentage of their sales to a lot of these platforms. So I think that in the end, you are spending too much money. You're losing too much money on them. And for me, the balance of controlling the experience as well as saving some money is more important. And we can find different other ways to reach our customer base and find different ways to grow, which we have to anyway. Because if you look at a city like Lagos, at the end of the day, from Knock in Victoria Island, we can service a certain parameter. We cannot go to Ikeja, for instance. Yeah. So for us, we have to find a way to start with ghost kitchens and finding a way to have mini kitchens in other areas to be able to circulate the whole of Lagos. So it wouldn't be from one Knock itself that we will now be sort of serving our takeout customers.
Okay, so alternative dining models such as pop-up restaurants, private chef catering, I know Tolu, you touched on this earlier, and food fairs have proven to be successful in Lagos, where the costs and risk of opening a new restaurant might be too high for some people. As someone who describes himself as an entrepreneur with a focus on food, Tolu, are there other models that you see being particularly well adapted to the Lagos business environment?
First of all, I would like to say that there aren't enough pop-ups going on to start with.
Okay.
And exhibitions, food exhibitions. You get two odd good ones a year. This year not being counted because of COVID, right? But I feel like there needs to be a little more. The one avenue that I would say, and it's something that I've been looking at for a few years, and I'm hoping to get around to doing it soon, if not somebody else does it soon, is food halls. I want to be able to go into from different vendors. So yeah, food hall will be definitely an opportunity that hasn't really been tapped into. We don't get a lot of street markets. I'm not entirely sure if it's because of the weather or whether because I don't know what it is. But you know how on Saturday you can go to street food markets in the UK and grab breakfast, lunch, and dinner literally on the fly. You're going stand to stand to stand to stand. I feel like that there's definitely a gap there. And then just a general idea of pop-up kitchens. So we don't have one thing that isn't available is commissaries, right? You can't just rent a kitchen and do a pop-up or a space that as a chef. And before I had my restaurant, it would have been nice for me to be able to rent a space that had a decent sized professional kitchen along with a dining room that I can host guests, even if it's just 20 people. Even if they're not doing a good enough job at communicating to the market. The target audience are chefs for someone like that, So there's definitely a lot of room for food real estate.
Oh, well, it seems like there's a lot of opportunities for people to take advantage of. Yeah,
I agree with Tolu, especially relating to the idea that there should be some kitchens because there's a lot of talent and a lot of times you can have the talent, but you don't have access to a kitchen or you don't have access to the funds for a restaurant. In order to get your name out there, you need a platform of some sort and you need to be able to cook and serve people regularly, at least to a certain extent. And it should not be that complicated to be able to rent a kitchen and do what you are able to do. And I think that for our industry, if we want our industry to develop and for a lot more to come up, this model is very, very important because it means that you don't have to have a big amount of funds to be able to have to open a restaurant before you can express your skills and show people what you can do. And so that we'll have a way for chefs to grow and for the industry to become a lot stronger.
No, that's really interesting. That's so cool. Maybe I need to steal some of these business ideas. With both Knock and Eros currently catering to higher dining experience, I think we've already touched a bit on this earlier. Tolu, you've talked about Fresh Prep by Eros, sort of filling this gap around menu innovation for people to prepare meals that are quicker and slightly cheaper maybe than going into the restaurant. Reni, I'd love to get your thoughts around this. What areas do you see for innovation around quicker and cheaper meals for your customers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here sitting down, I'm looking at Tolu, I'm thinking, oh my God, how can he do all this stuff? I don't have the bandwidth, in the sense that it's really challenging, because it's a young industry. It's an industry that sort of requires a lot of development now. It needs to grow in a certain way. We need to perfect so many things that I'm not as brave as Tolu yet, but do admire what he's doing. I think, like I say, I want us to talk about your bandwidth. But I think what he's doing is quite remarkable. I think it's important to be able to do the fresh produce. But for Christmas, we are thinking of doing the same thing, but we're doing it around like one turkey and a few dishes, right? I'm not doing it on a daily basis. So not yet. But I do think that's the future. I think that's the direction. I think, and it's a good way to utilize a lot of the skills that we have in our industry that are not properly used at the moment. So you have a lot of skills, a lot of really committed, sort of very, very qualified people who don't have. So we are looking for people. We're always looking for people to be able to do a lot of the things that we could be doing. And I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So things get a bit more complicated, especially if you want something perfect before you move on to the other thing. Right. But we are moving in the direction of fresh foods. I think, again, having a small ghost kitchen in different parts of the city is helping for us to spread the Knock idea to a wider range of people rather than people that are just on the island, because there are very, very many areas that we could benefit from. Yes, what else did I want to speak about? Yeah, just take away fresh foods, cook at home. You know, a lot of what Tolu is already doing is what I think the future is.
So yay, Tolu, for being the first mover in this market. I hope it pays off for you.
I hope so too.
So we're going to switch gears and talk about technologies a little bit. So Reni, with Knock being so interested in overseeing the end-to-end customer experience, in what ways do you see technologies really helping you to achieve this vision? Do you think it's an app, or do you think there are other technologies that you're looking at right now that might help you really perfect that customer experience, I guess, post-COVID?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's mostly mobile, a little bit of social media. We're able to sort of get analytics that a little bit from both mobile as well as media. I do think we do need an app. I think an app will be convenient. It will raise our brand awareness. It will reach a bigger audience. We'll be able to tailor our customers' experiences directly based on their history. We can offer them stays that are special. We can move on to loyalty programs. There's so much, there's so much that the app will give you. And we have a young clientele. A young clientele, really the ones that we should be having the app for. They connect to that idea of the app, and that's how they live. So we are working on a Knock app. It should be out soon. We've been working on it actually since lockdown, which doesn't make sense. But yeah, we are working on it at the moment. And I think even in terms of ordering, you can order straight from the app. There's so many things that it allows you to do, especially when everybody is quite conscious of catching COVID and all that. So we're moving in that direction. I think better social media sort of connection, finding a way to have software that allows us better analytics. At the moment, we have newsletters, we can tell what people have clicked on, what people's preferences are, those kind of things are already helping us to a certain point in sort of analyzing customer experience and more customer-driven experience. Yeah, so at the moment, yes, I think an app will be interesting. We're already on digital. We're already quite agile on a mobile app. Yeah, basically, those are the things that I think that we're missing at the moment. Yeah, so if we can launch our app, if we can have better analytics from social media and from sort of newsletters, stuff like that, I think it would help us a lot more.
That's definitely true. So Tolu, for someone like you that has, I guess, different brands and different touch points that you could potentially interact with your customers, I wonder if you're doing anything to track that data across the different sort of touch points, and if you're using that to change how you maybe approach your menu design or how you deliver service to your customers. So I'll give an example. I've been to the restaurant a few times. I've ordered from Fresh Prep a few times. Are you tracking that data anyhow and then seeing how you can better provide a service to me, for example?
Okay, so I agree in the sense that like an app will be a great approach because it gives us a 360 view. Everything is in one place. But pending when that happens, and just like Reni, we've been working on one since the beginning of lockdown. As a matter of fact, when she mentioned it, I almost picked up my phone to call the guy, like, "Come, how far?
Where's my app?
Where's my app? What's going on?" But in the absence of that, we're using a mix of different things. So we utilize a reservation software to manage reservations, and we ensure that everyone who dines in the restaurant, and I'm sure you've also had to go through that process, is registered, just so that we can keep that data. Tables, when you're done dining, you're able to scan a barcode and give us some feedback so we can get some information that way. On social media, we have community managers who are tracking information. I can't understand the analytics. To give it to me in layman terms. Unfortunately, I'm not very techy, so they give it to me in layman terms, and I'm able to understand what exactly it is that the consumer is looking for. They're able to analyze the information and put them into categories of, green, yellow, and red, depending on feedback. It'll be great to soon be able to shop on Instagram like you can do in the West. Especially with a brand like Cookie Jar, which is our bakery that's currently undergoing a complete rebrand. And as the brand unveils, it'll be nice to be able to put a shop on Instagram where you can literally just order the cake directly. But in the absence of that, we have a website, where you can go on order at the moment. And I'm sure you've used the website for ordering Fresh Prep, and the website is getting smarter over time. With certain algorithms being installed, and at some point we'll be able to get some more information as to where our customers are, what they're buying, and the general customer experience. But I definitely think that an app that can do all of this in one place would be great, especially if the other value adds like knowledge sharing.
No, that's fantastic. We as a customer, we're really looking forward to that, and I hope that before the end of this year, you get your apps ready. We're going to switch gears a bit and just switch to the fun part. So I'll start with you, Reni. What was the last prediction that you got wrong?
Oh, Jed. Actually, there's a major one, I have to say, and it's very interesting, and it really revolves around Abula again. I thought that Abula would be fine as a special. As just people will want it for a while. So we have sort of some nostalgic dishes that we just bring for a while and take away. I was shocked that we only needed to bring it for a month, and that people wouldn't really care because they'll have it for a month and they'd be wanting to eat all the other elegant dishes on our menu. I worked with my daughter who was like, "No, mom, this is not going to work." But I was sure that people didn't want Abula on an everyday basis. But the fact is, people want to eat Abula every single day. When we first started, we did it as a monthly thing, and then we stopped, and then we started on Thursdays, only Thursdays. And now we have Abula every single day we are open, and it remains our bestseller. So
I agree with you.
I was wrong to think I could bring it a little bit and take it away. It didn't work as a special.
Yeah, I agree with you. I only eat Amala at Knock, so it doesn't matter what day of the week I'm there. That's what I'm eating. Yes. Tolu, have you gotten any predictions wrong lately?
That people wouldn't want to dine out on Mondays. So we thought Monday would be a great idea to close. And then we realized that every Monday we're getting bombarded with calls. And so now we have to open on Mondays, even if it's just for delivery.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So what's one view you seem to find very few people agree with you on? Tolu, you can go first on this one.
One view I seem to find very few people agree with me on.
Yes.
I'm looking around like, what is that?
Unless you're just like an agreeable person, and that's cool too.
There's nothing that jumps out that I feel like people haven't like agreed with me on per se.
All right. That's okay. Reni, do you have any?
I do.
Great. Tell me.
Africa's developmental change will be via creativity and its creative arts.
That's a really good one. That's a really good one. And it's actually really closely linked to my next question, which is from our previous guest, Ojoma Ochai from British Council, who has a question for you both. She would like to know how the narratives or perceptions of Nigeria shape the international appeal of Nigerian foods and what it means for the potential global appeal that Nigerian food can have, and maybe more broadly, African food. So Reni, you can just take that.
So yeah, it's linked to what I said before. And that our creativity will be our path to freedom, as they say. What I mean is that we have tapped into an area that before now we didn't feel confident enough to, and that is the creative arts. In all fields of creativity, visual arts, design, the whole gambit of it.
Right.
And it's become very interesting because the generation coming out now as the creatives to be reckoned with are very able to connect with the rest of the world because they're on social media and it's a different world. So every creative in our environment is already playing a part in the global world and the global discussion in various aspects. And I think it will be the same with food. And because of the easy connection, we're getting a lot of attention and a lot of respect for our creativity. Also, trends come in waves and people love trends, just as food trends. Food trends come and go. Just like, the Asian world have had theirs, we will have ours. We will have it in food, we'll have it in fashion, we'll have it in different aspects of the creative world. And I think that as that time is coming, we have the audience and therefore we have the platform for recognition and appreciation. So like I did say, it is our creativity that will be the most important aspect of our developmental change. And I think she has asked the right question for me because it's made my day.
She
made my day.
Love that.
It's creativity, it's connectivity.
I just want to add to that to say that I'm living witness of this. So a few years ago, about 3 years ago, I started doing a tour of different countries, taking Nigerian food to them, right? And the one thing that I always say about Nigerian food is that our food is full of flavor, right? And the moment we start to present it differently, we would be one of the best when it comes to, taste, right? And every time that I have done a tour, the feedback has been remarkable. So much so that I actually even end up doing more than I expect. So I expect to do 3 stops, and every single time it gets doubled up to 6, right?
Wow.
Just a few months ago, I was in Dubai and I had a tasting for a group of 20 people. And following from that, I got offered a residency at one of the largest hotels.
Fancy.
What's it called? The best hotels in Dubai, and I've been called back to do another event just like that. And these are for people who had never tasted Nigerian food, but already had that impression from what they had seen already. You're going to a standard Nigerian restaurant that's doing it the old way, and the food just looks like a lot. It looks like I don't want to use the word a mess, but literally, it's not something that is visually appealing. And people eat with their eyes first, we forget, right? And I think it's time for that innovation, and you can see it already happening. There's a huge wave of creatives and chefs in the country who are presenting Nigerian food differently. Right? And the moment people are tasting it, just the taste is so overwhelmingly good that you have no other choice but to tell other people about it. It's just going to keep growing and expanding from there.
Right. Fantastic. I look forward to the day that like we can go into like other cities and find proper nice Nigerian restaurants to eat. That would be really exciting. Okay, so thank you so much, Tolu and Reni, for taking time out to chat with today. I hope that you've enjoyed your time with us. I've really enjoyed learning about like the restaurant industry from you guys today, and I hope that you've enjoyed speaking with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us, Tolu and Dams.
Thank you.
Awesome.